Imagine standing in the heart of Rome, where every stone and every corner whisper stories of the past. But what if I told you that one of Michelangelo's most iconic masterpieces was nearly compromised a century ago? In this video, we dive into how Mussolini's brutal modernization campaign didn't just reshape Rome. It tore apart a vision crafted by one of the greatest artists of all time. Stay with me as we uncover the shocking truth behind the destruction of magnificent AraCoeli Square and how it forever altered the city's soul. The grasp of the magnitude of the damage caused by the fascist demolitions, let's briefly analyze the Piazza del Campidoglio. This square was redesigned in 16th century by Michelangelo Buonarroti and stands as one of the masterpieces of Renaissance urban architecture. At the center of the square, we find a bronze statue of the philosopher Emperor Marcus Aurelius, moved here by Michelangelo from its original location at the Laterano, and it was the first act of his project. The backdrop of the square is occupied by the ancient Palazzo Senatorio, redesigned by Michelangelo. On either side of the square, the twin porticoed facade of the Palazzo dei Conservatori and the Palazzo Nuovo are situated, with the latter being constructed along the side of the AraCoeli church in the 17th century. The two palaces are positioned to form an inverted trapezoidal space in plan, correcting the optical distortion of the central perspective view, which tends to deform the square shape of the piazza into a trapezoid due to the converging line that lead to the Palazzo Senatorio at the center. The side of the square opposite the Palazzo Senatorio is magnificently open to the city, with a balustrade adorned with ancient statues and the cordonata, a staircase with wide shallow steps that connects the level of the square with the underlying Piazza dell'AraCoeli. Before the fascist demolitions, Piazza dell'AraCoeli, with its funnel-shaped layout, was the point of convergence not only for the staircase of the church of the AraCoeli and Michelangelo's Cordonata, but also for the trapezoidal Piazza del Campidoglio, with the Capitoline buildings which also converged to create an exceptional funnel-shaped urban space focused on Piazza del Campidoglio. Between 1928 and 1930, the leveling was completed at the foot of the Feral Hill, with the destruction of the entire western block of Piazza AraCoeli between the Capitoline Hill and Palazzito Venezia. Among the other things, the Palazzo Santa Croce and the Palazzo Fabi Silvestri of the 17th and 18th centuries disappeared, and another church, the fifth on this side of the Capitoline Hill, San Venanzio dei Camerinesi, also known as Santissimi Giovanni in Mercatello, with a lavish 17th and 18th century interior. The church was part of a beautiful Baroque little square, connected with the main one, the AraCoeli Square, and these, according to fascist propaganda, were dilapidated places of shacks to be redeveloped through demolitions. In 1928, also the beautiful church of Santa Rita, by Carlo Fontana architect, which stood next to the staircase of AraCoeli, was dismantled, and great attention was paid to the discovery of the brick ruin of a multi-story Roman house in its place. In place of one of the most extraordinary areas of Rome, there is now an amorphous space. Piazza Ara Coeli was indeed the backdrop that Michelangelo had used for the distant view of the arrangement of the Capitoline Hill, now completely degraded. The side of the bulk of Vittoriano appears even more truculent, looming, and offensive, and the Capitoline Hill low and insignificant. Such a senseless operation was carried out with funds from the American loan from J.P. Morgan, and the work was executed by the Istituto Case Popolari under the guidance of architect Alberto Calzabini, president of the Istituto Nazionale di Urbanistica, founded in 1930, and the inhabitants of demolished houses were deported to some suburban borgata, such as San Basilio, Borgata Prenestina, and Borgata Gordiani. All in the name, of course, of the greatness of Rome.
E domani Roma rinascerà più bella e più superba che pria. Bravo! Grazie.
At the end of all these demolitions, there remained the problem of what to do with the big hole created by the destruction of Piazza Ara Coeli. And it is precisely in front of this gaping void that in 1930 the most beautiful brawl among demolishers of various orders and degrees broke out, especially since, another example of foresight, there was the risk that it would be filled by a new building, that of the Fascist Confederation of Industry. In the end, fortunately, Corrado Ricci's less impactful solution prevails, which includes green landscaping on this side and symmetrically on the other towards the Forum of Traiano. Corrado Ricci, a man of old generation with appreciable cultural merits, unequivocally deplores that Piazza Ara Coeli was demolished with force, against three opinions of the Higher Council of Antiquities and Fine Arts. He said it was indispensable to guarantee solemnity and grandeur to the Capitoline Hill, precisely because, with its funnel-shaped silhouette, it was the point of a convergence not only of the Ara Coeli staircase and the two climbs to the hill, but also of the Capitoline buildings converging themselves, just as in a flower the calyx gathers the leaves. And he lashes out against those, Brasini, who wanted to gut the opposite side of the square, as well tearing down the Fani Malatesta and the Massimo Colonna palaces, which would later be calmly cut in 1939, and demolish the Tor de' Specchi monastery. The protagonists of this surreal controversy are the main actors in the debate of demolitions in Rome: the academic Ugo Ietti, the architects Gustavo Giovannoni and Marcello Piacentini. They were capable of initially making sensible statements about the need to preserve urban contexts as well as the individual monuments within them, proving that, even then, there was an awareness of the value of urban contexts that give meanings to the monuments they contain, only to contradict themselves by designing demolitions that go in the opposite direction of their previous declarations. This can be explained by the servility and flattery of these academics, who often proposed to the Duce projects more absurd than those conceived by Mussolini himself. To understand the darker aspects of Mussolini's legacy and what we have partly lost, let's examine the magnificent Nolli map, where I have highlighted in red, within the area of Piazza dell'Ara Coeli, a portion of the intricate and wonderful system of urban voids. Streets, squares, small plazas, palace courtyards, and interiors of churches form a continuous sequence of voids and solids, connected by labyrinthine pathways between exterior and interior spaces. Let's walk through the alleys and small plazas of the part of the neighborhood that was fortunately not demolished, and compare it with the empty spaces left behind by the demolitions that contributed to transforming part of the historic city into a squalid traffic intersection, stripped of its inhabitants and consequently of its soul.